As fantastic a CFP as Mel O is, and as wonderful an attorney as I am, please do note that anything said in our show are our opinions alone and are not meant to be taken as financial or legal advice.
Welcome to Finances, the Other F Word, a Gen Xer podcast for musicians and music lovers, where we discuss money and music without all the pretentious bullshit. Here are your hosts, Zoe Terry, attorney at large, and Mel O, certified financial planner and author of Finances, the Other F Word. Listener discretion is advised.
Vegas is having the craziest fucking weather ever. It snowed here, it's hailed here, it's raining right now. It's been like high 30s, low 40s, windy and shit, and it's fucking cold and miserable. What's up, devil lovers? Coda, hey, welcome back, babe. So I'm going to start off with a quick client story, and then we are going to talk about Credit Suisse, and then we are going to get into the United States budget and the debt ceiling debate that is raging between Republicans and Democrats currently right now. So for those of you who are new to my show, my name is Mel O. I'm a certified financial planner, licensed financial advisor, author, host of the show Finance is the Other F Word, and a licensed financial advisor. Did I say that already? And basically we talk about money while we play metal. So I got a text message. What's up, virtual? I got a text message I woke up to from a client that texted me at 3 this morning. And when I woke up at 4:30, I got the text message and I texted them back, and they had a triggering event. They had a life triggering event. And so triggering events are very important for you guys because anytime, what's up, Dragon? Because anytime you are planning your financial future, you're trying to invest, or you're trying to do anything of that nature, it's very important that you always give yourself wiggle room because shit comes up in my clients' lives over and over and over again. Yes, we all do virtual for sure. And so this is a pretty sizable triggering event. And I just want to caution you guys that as you're planning for your future, or you're planning for your retirement, or you're investing money, or you're looking at something that's sexy and you think you might want to invest in it and try to make money, that you just be really aware of things that could happen because it never fails. This shit happens over and over again where there's a triggering event and it comes through and it fucks up my client's entire financial plan. So for those of you who don't know, I own an investment firm, Hot Moon Financial. So if you guys have questions on finances or how they affect your life, then I would highly encourage you to reach out to me there. You can email me at mel@hotmoonfinancial.com. Or of course, my show is called Finances, the Other F Word.com there as well. But just be aware of these triggering events because it's some pretty heavy shit that went down at 4:30 this morning. And we hate to see it. Unfortunately, it's a fact of life. I'm going to play a quick song that I never would have played before because I was like, everybody's like, oh, this song's so overdone. But I fucking love this song. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about Credit Suisse, the newest basically issue that's happening with Credit Suisse and why that's so relative to what happened in 2008 in our market. And then we're going to come back and we're going to get into the debt ceiling. We're going to get into the United States budget. We're going to get into the argument around raising the debt ceiling, what Powell says, what Republicans say, what Democrats say, and why basically we're just all fucked. So before we do that, we're going to play a happy little song that always made me want to run away when I was little. And now I still want to run away as an adult. I just want to run away from my mortgage and my business and all of my friends and family. Wow, that has like a long as fuck fade out. I never realized. I love the little metal community that we built on AMP. I really do. And when I say we, I'm really talking about Todd, Munster, and DL, and Sanguine and stuff like that. Because I love the fact that you can go from fucking Sanguine's show, which is just like black and death and heavy metal, and then you can come over here and I'm going to talk to you about money, and we're going to play Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue. And everybody's going to jump in and love it, and all of that stuff. It really warms my heart. And I have a song for Tabor, so she's going to have to stick around because I found this song and I'm like, fucking nobody has this song. Nobody knows this song. So she got very excited when they added Jelly Roll. I got very excited when I found this song. I'm sure she's already played it maybe, but it's wonderful. And no, DL, it is not Phil Collins, even though when I caught Tabor's show, she played Every Day by Phil Collins. And I've watched that video on repeat and cried like a little bitch for at least 4 days in a row. So, yeah, Phil Collins, man, he fucking makes you get the feels. So let's talk about Credit Suisse real quick. So you guys may know who Credit Suisse is, or you may not really know what they do, but Credit Suisse is a ginormous global investment bank and financial services firm. Okay, and they're founded out of Switzerland, thus Credit Suisse, right? Even though it's not spelled like that. And so they are currently under investigation by FINMA. So we have governing bodies over here, FINRA, we have the SEC, we have then the various different, like with me, I have 4 levels of compliance on me because of all of my licenses and my designation, and it's a fucking shit show. But FINMA over there is kind of like FINRA over here. And so FINMA is just finishing up their investigation on Credit Suisse, which is pretty damning. And it has resulted in them pulling in testimony of about 600 of their top C-suite executives and, you know, interviewing them and coming to the conclusion, because what basically happened is that Credit Suisse, in alliance with Greensill Capital, which ended up going under, was misrepresenting investments as safe. So when you're talking about investments, you can never say the word safe, right? Because safe means FDIC insured. And investments are not FDIC insured. And even a treasury can lose value. Even money market accounts can lose value. And in 2008, we had about 10 to 15 money markets that broke the buck. So I'm going to get to that when I talk about 2008. So they broke the buck, and that was unheard of. It had never happened before, and people just fucking panicked their ass off. So what they did was they basically said, hey, that these funds, all of these loans that are together in this like mutual fund type investment that we've now petted off to investment people, we've told them that the ratings are high. We've told them that, you know, these are safe investments. We'll come to find out they're not safe at all. And it ended up taking Greensill Capital down to the tune of $10 billion in investors' money. Now, $6.5 billion has been paid back to investors. However, the remaining outstanding billions of dollars is now tied up in court battles and will be in court for years and years and years to come. And so the thing is that Credit Suisse is under investigation because they're like, hey, how the fuck did this happen? So what Credit Suisse did was they said, quote, according to the FINMA investigation, FINMA accused them of, quote, saying that they, quote, partly false and overtly positive statements. So basically what they did was they said, oh yeah, these debtors are strong, so you're buying debt. I've talked a lot about bonds on this show. So when you buy somebody's bond, you're buying their debt. And if you buy a mutual fund of bonds, you're buying a whole bunch of people's debt. And you do that based on the rating of the debt and how much risk you want to take. So if somebody tells you something is safe, with air quotes, and you buy it based on that information just to come to find out that it's not safe, then you're going to end up getting fucked. And this is one of the cruxes of what happened in 2008. So there was so much shit that happened in 2008. And I'm not going to go through all of it because A, I don't know all of it. B, I don't understand all of it because there was so many people fucking up that it was just like this kaleidoscope shitstorm of craziness. But in 2008, one of the things they did with the subprime mortgage loans is that they would take them. So think of a sausage, and I use this example in my book. So think of a sausage. Like, let's say that you cut off the two end pieces, right? And then you just want the middle good piece of the sausage. And then you take that part and you put it back in the grinder. And then you keep doing this over and over again. So the first thing that you issue are these quality sausage pieces. This is the quality meat of the sausage. But then what happens is that as you go farther and farther down the line, you start having to throw end pieces in. And you throw more and more end pieces into what you're calling quality sausage. What's up? Anybody got quality sausage for Mel? Because fucking I'm looking for some, right? So anyway, I digress. So anyway, so then what happens is you keep putting these end pieces in until finally all you have is end pieces. So you still have the label of quality sausage, but you now only have a sausage full of end pieces. And then what you do is you're selling that to the public. So you're selling people basically quality labeled mutual funds that hold debt that are considered to be quality that in fact are not quality at all. As a matter of fact, they're actually shit. But since you've presented them, and since the issuers of these ginormous investment things were all of the big investment firms, Schwab, Lynch, Citi, there's so many. Everybody, we almost literally just failed. The whole banking system almost failed. I don't know if you guys realize how close we were to failure in 2008. We were a frog's hair away from failure. So the point I'm making is that this is just kind of a cycle that keeps repeating itself. And I'll dig farther into 2008 because we had credit default swaps that then fell. We had a whole bunch of stuff that ended up going off the cliff because of this one thing that they were doing where they were saying that, this is quality and people were investing their money. And as the market gets scary, more and more people invest their money into things such as this. And then when that shit starts hitting the fan, then you start seeing where the money markets start breaking the buck. And so I'll come back and I'll just tell you what that means. And then we're going to switch into the debt ceiling. Actually, let me just tell you what it means now. And then let me play a couple songs so we can transition. So in a money market account, these got really big. I think they came out in the 90s. I'm not really sure. And maybe late 90s. Anyway, so this was the alternative to FDIC insured accounts, checking, savings, CDs. And it paid a little bit more interest because it's made up of all of these really short-term securities. And so everybody was putting their money in money market account because investment firms were saying, this is safe money. This is a safe place to put your money. Well, when everything started collapsing, even these short-term investment securities that are 30 days out, 90 days out started collapsing too. And so the money market accounts that were considered the safe alternative for cash ended up going less than $1, meaning that people actually lost value in cash and not just to taxes and inflation, but they lost value to tax, they lost value of their actual money market account. And when it broke the buck, people lost their fucking mind. They lost their fucking mind because it was terrifying. And so I'm going to play a song. Yeah, Virtual. I lost everything in 2008 too. I had to start over, and I talk about that on my show. I'm going to play two, Tabor, let me know if you're still around. I'm going to play two back-to-back quick songs. I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to play Tabor's song. Lemmy, with your sweet talk that you like a little innocent bitch. You're just so not attractive at all. And you're probably one of the only rock stars I would not have fucked, but I definitely would have hung the fuck out with you. And we could have got really drunk and started fights together. Like, that's what I would want to do with Lemmy. Like, just let's go to a fucking bar and get really shit-faced and just start shit for no reason. That's what I would do with Lemmy. But sex would be off the table because he reeks like cigarettes and he has those weird things on his face. And you don't get to call me a bitch unless I tell you to call me a bitch. And then that means we're doing fun stuff. So let's talk about the debt ceiling, which we've talked about on my prior shows. Okay. So the debt ceiling is all the rage right now, as it is every couple years. And this shit happens again and again and again. And the complete argument over the debt ceiling is complete and utter bullshit. And it is unnecessary because a comprehensive budget is already passed by Congress, which we're going to get into here in a minute. So the debt ceiling allows us to pay interest on debt we've already incurred. So the president does a budget, he sends it to Congress, Congress changes what they want to change, and then they send it back and the president signs it into law. That's how our budgets become, which means that Congress knows what the fuck is in the budget. They know how much money needs to be raised in order to cover expenditures, and they've already voted on it. So the fact that every time the debt ceiling comes up, it's an argument is beyond me. And this is Democrats do it and Republicans do it. This is both sides do it. They argue about the debt ceiling, and it causes a whole bunch of unnecessary conflict, and it makes markets uncomfortable, and it makes people in the economy uncomfortable, and it's completely pointless. So Fed Chair Jerome Powell, he was appointed to the Fed by Obama, but made Fed Chair by Trump. Okay, so he is the one when you always see him, you know, old white guy with the gray hair, glasses, kind of gangly. He's the guy, the Fed chair, that is the one who's always saying we're going to raise interest rates or lower interest rates based on votes by the other Fed chairs. But he's the Fed chair head, thus the Fed chair. So in 2011, he was telling Congress, hey, look, you guys are fucking around with our debt ceiling and you really should stop doing this because this is not safe for you guys to do. And this is a bad thing to do. Well, here we are now in 2023. And now he's doing the same thing because, again, Congress cannot get their shit together and cannot figure out what the fuck to do about the debt ceiling. And when I talked about the debt ceiling on prior show, I talked about the credit downgrades into bonds. Sanguine's cracking me up. Okay, stop talking about Dogecoin. So I'm gonna look at my playlist because Sanguine's gonna keep making me laugh and distracting me, man. Don't distract me. So the thing is that we already talked about what happens when debt is downgraded. So I just talked to you about Credit Suisse, about how they said, hey, these are highly rated. This is good debt. You should purchase it. But in fact, it was shit debt, and they ended up losing $10 billion. So this is kind of the same thing. Right now, the United States Treasury, one of the ways that they raise that they raise tax or revenue, they raise money, they raise money is by issuing debt. And they have the AAA plus rating because so far they haven't defaulted, air quotes, because there's another story with that. So far they haven't defaulted, which means that our Treasury can lend money. People can buy the United States Treasury debt all over the globe, and they are comfortable buying it because they are pretty certain that they're going to get paid back their principal amount of money. That's a big deal when you're buying bonds. So if in the event that as the debt ceiling debate gets closer, we go on extraordinary measures. And extraordinary measures are just like the emergency lights. That's like they're just funding the most necessary programs. But in the event that the debt ceiling does happen, we could, in fact, go off a cliff. And so we had the Bush, a number of years ago, we had the Bush tax cuts that were expiring, and it caused a fiscal cliff. And that was a huge fucking deal because we did almost, I think that's when we got temporarily downgraded on our debt, even though we technically didn't miss a payment. But if the debt ceiling is not raised, then the belief is, or not the belief, then the government technically cannot pay the interest on their debt, which causes a downgrade, which means that the next time that the United States tries to raise money for our government, they are going to have to pay more interest to people who buy their debt. So a credit rating is very important. And the reason why that's very important is because the interest that we pay on the debt as the United States that we issue is a very big line item in the United States budget. So it behooves the United States and any government to have very high credit ratings so that when they issue their debt, they keep it at the lowest interest rate they have to pay people as possible, because then that all circles back through. And so next week, Powell is heading to Capitol Hill to basically testify on the economy and try to explain to Congress why this debt ceiling again is such a big deal. And so Republicans are saying that they want to make cuts before they will approve a debt limit increase, which makes fiscal sense. Making spending cuts, that's just, yes, that makes sense. I think that we can all agree on either side of the aisle we're on that the government is spending not all of their money super wisely. Like if they were one of your friends, you'd be like, dude, we need to sit down because you're fucking all over the place right now. You're kind of fucking up, right? However, what we'll get to when we come back here in a minute is we're going to get to exactly what's in the budget, and we're going to start talking about how exactly do you do that. And remember that the debt ceiling conversation, take the politicalness out of it. The debt ceiling conversation is literally them approving the ability to spend money to pay interest on debt that we've already incurred based on a budget that they've already approved. So it makes me want to punch all of the fucking congressmen, women, all of them in the fucking face. There's a couple I'd start with first. But if Tabor, okay, this is your song. This is Hair Metal Glory. This would be Tabor and I sitting around and fucking drinking a wine cooler and just fucking hair metaling our ass off. And the other day I thought of the song. I was like, I wonder if Amp has it. And they fucking did. And I was like, no fucking way. Tabor, if you've already played this on your show, please let me know. I don't know if any of you guys remember this song. I fucking love this song so much. Okay, so that song gets me there. Like, first of all, you can't find it anywhere. I've been trying to buy it on iTunes for fucking ever. I cannot find it. I had the CD at one point, don't have it anymore. If you go to YouTube, the only video of the song is somebody holding their phone recording the video. It is like the shittiest video ever, and that's the only place you're gonna find it. And when Amp had it, I was like, that fucking kills me. So Tabor looks like she appreciated the song. I knew you would. I was like, this, if anybody's gonna appreciate all this fucking hair metal glory, it is completely Tabor. So let me get my composure together, because literally that song has a special place in my loins a lot. So let's get back to the U.S. government debt spending, right? So let's just talk about a breakdown for the fiscal year of 2022, what our United States debt looked like. Or excuse me, not our debt, our budget, which leads to our raising capital, which is our debt. But we're talking about the budget because we're talking about the fighting between Republicans and Democrats. So for fiscal year 2022, the top 10 spending by categories was 19% on Social Security, 15% on health, 14% on income security, 12% on national defense, 12% on Medicare, 11% on lumped together education, training, employment, and social services, 8% on net interest. Remember that number? 4% on veterans benefits and services, 2% on transportation, 2% on general government, and 1% on other. And the reason why this is so important is because if you listen to politicians, they're always going to spin it, and they're going to throw out these ginormous numbers. My fucking headphones are so loud because I was rocking out. Let me turn this down. They're always going to spin it, and they're going to use these astronomical numbers that we can't grasp our mind around. But when you break it down into percentages, it gets much easier. And that's why when I give you guys a number, I always put it in context, because context is very important. Now, let's break that further down by fiscal year 2022 for agencies. So basically, I gave you kind of the broad categories. Now we're going to talk about the government agencies. So this is for fiscal year of 2022. This was the United States budget. 26% went to the Department of Health and Human Services, 20% to the Social Security Administration, 19% to the Department of the Treasury, 12% to the Department of Defense Military Programs, 10% to the Department of Education, 4% to the Department of Veteran Affairs, 4% to the Department of Agriculture, 2% to the Department of Transportation, 2% Office of Personnel Management, and 1% Department of Homeland Security. So, 2/3, and I mentioned this on the last episode when I talked about the debt ceiling, 2/3 of our budget is mandatory spending. So what we have is we have people fighting over shit. We have people fighting over discretionary spending things. So when you do your own budget, and I've talked about this again on other shows, you have 4 categories that you do. You have discretionary, which is shit you choose to spend money on, non-discretionary, which is shit you have to spend money on, or mandatory spending, and then you have variable and fixed. But your 2 main categories are discretionary, non-discretionary, or in this case, according to the government, mandatory versus discretionary, that you have to spend money on. Rent, mortgage, that's all mandatory spending. The gym, that's discretionary. Starbucks, that's discretionary, right? So 2/3 of our budget is already there. It's already accounted for. So a lot of this stuff is already locked in. And so the thing is that when we're talking about what Congress is arguing over, the amount that they're arguing over, yes, in dollar amount, it's ginormous. But in percentage wise, it's a smaller percentage of the total budget. You guys follow what I'm saying? So this is basically what they're looking at, is that when you're talking about mandatory spending as in regards to the federal government, and this mandatory spending is also called direct spending. So this is something that Congress does not have to have an annual vote on. This means that this is already put into law. This was already approved. This is already law. So there is no reason for Congress to vote on it annually. It is mandated by existing law. And so this is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and other miscellaneous payments to people and businesses. And those are mandatory. So that is just a line item that's in there all the time. Your discretionary spending is approved by Congress. So this is where when the president submits the budget to Congress and Congress does their little changes and then sends it back and then it's signed into law, this is what happens. Where they are looking at this discretionary money and what they're going to massage. But generally, right off the bat, out of that little 1/3 of the pie that's left, 50% of that money goes to national defense. So then what Congress is fighting over is even a little tinier chunk of the pie, which is transportation, education, housing, social services, and environmental organizations, okay? And this is where this comprehensive budget is all already established at the beginning of the year when Congress approves it. So when they're fighting over the debt ceiling, they're fighting over 1/3 of the pie. And really not even 1/3 of the pie, because half of that is considered discretionary spending, is national defense. So that automatically goes over there. So now we're talking about an even smaller slice. So this is why I'm telling you that the posturing over the debt ceiling is a bunch of fucking bullshit, because they make it sound like and this is both sides. I've watched Democrats do it and I've watched fucking Republicans do it. And the thing is that the economists tell us this is stupid. And I don't care how you feel. Numbers don't lie. Numbers are numbers. So I don't care what party you affiliate with. I don't care what the fuck you think. These are the numbers from our U.S. budget. They are fighting over a very small portion. But what they're doing is they're causing a whole bunch of unrest and uncertainty in an economy that may or may not be in a recession. Technically, we're not in a recession based on the numbers yet. I don't know if we'll go into a recession or if we'll skirt it. They were saying that by mid-month of first quarter, which would have been the middle of February, we're starting the last month of the first quarter. And so far, technically, the data is saying we're not in a recession. So who knows, we might skirt one after all, but we're still paying $8 for eggs, right? And so this is where things start getting really messy with what they're fighting over. So I'm going to play a quick song and I'm going to come back and we're going to continue this discussion. And San Gwen is saying, yes, it is snowing. It snowed here in Vegas. I am going to play, actually, I'm going to play this. So, of course, you guys know that is basically the Four Horsemen, right? That Dave did because, of course, Metallica took that song. And I want to remind all you guys again that Stanley, my friend, who is the live sound engineer for Megadeth, I did talk to him. They were just finishing up Asia. Of course, Marty Freeman joined them on stage. Marty Freeman is actually coming here. DL, if you and Heiser want to head out to Vegas, Marty Freeman will be at Vamped, which is a tiny ass club. And so you're going to be like fucking like nuts to nose with this guy. Like it literally, I think the club holds maybe 200 people. 300 people, but he's going to be coming. And so Stanley, sorry, God, Mel. So Stanley has agreed that he is going to come on the show, and I'm basically going to be a call-in where you guys can talk to him and you can ask him. He has great stories about Dave. He has great stories about all these other metal bands, hanging out with Lemmy. Like the guy is just a treasure trove of stories. And I might end up going long that day because I just want you guys to talk to him because the man has been around so much rock and roll royalty. It's fucking sick. And so I'm talking to him on the 4th, and it's going to be sometime between there. He goes back on the 10th, so I think I'm looking at my calendar now. It might be the 8th. So it looks like March 8th. So Todd, I'll reach out to you to see if I can go long that day. I will have Stanley on, and I will have the phone lines open. So have your Megadeth questions, have your just general questions. Stanley is fucking cool as shit, you guys. You're going to fucking love him, and he's just so fucking amazing. I've had him on finances multiple times. The guy is just amazing. So let's round out our conversation on the United States budget. And my goal is not to sway you either way to either party. I don't give a fuck who you vote for, right? And unless we're in a gerrymandered district or state, your vote is as important as mine, right? So the thing is that when I tell you guys about this kind of stuff, I'm not trying to sway you to either thing, but I want you to understand the context, because right now, let's say if, the Republicans are the one pushing for the debt ceiling, we'll give it time, and then the Democrats will do the same thing at some point. But what we have is a breakdown in the communication of this very, very small, tiny, tiny slither of the United States budget. And on top of that, the other kind of piece of the discretionary spending would be supplemental spending, which is what they have to vote on every year. So think COVID, right? So when shit happens, they have to vote on things in order to, to send money to like COVID relief programs and things like that. So again, Congress votes on that as well. But then you need to fund those programs, which means that the next year that the budget comes up, they need to understand that they're going to have to issue more debt, or they're going to have to raise taxes, which neither party wants to fucking raise taxes. And so that means that it's going to fall back on debt. Well, again, let's take this full circle for the umpteenth billionth time. If the debt is downgraded in the credit rating, it's going to cost more. And remember, when I just did a breakdown of the United States budget for the fiscal year of 2022, net interest was 8%. Now, 8% of the total all budget doesn't sound like a lot of money, and percentage-wise it's not, but dollar amount, it's a huge deal, and that can continue to grow if our credit rating slips. And the thing is that with the United States budget, people fight because they have different ideologies, but the bottom line is that most of the United States budget are entitlement programs, and Social Security is entitlement. That's an entitlement program. So so people be like, oh, people on welfare and people on Medicaid. Well, yeah, people on Social Security and people on Medicare. So I understand that there's the ideology behind, well, this person worked for this money and this person didn't, or whatever. But when you come down to numbers, it's all entitlement. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you feel. Their entitlement programs make up the bulk of our budget. And so this debt ceiling just keeps going round and round and round. And in 2020, so we talked about GDP. GDP is gross domestic product. Gross domestic product is a measurement of what an economy produces. And if you have a debt that's trending over GDP, then that's in a bad way. So with the Greek debt crisis that we had in 2008, taking this again full circle, and then 2010, and then 2012, and then 2015, they were over their GDP. Like I don't know if they were at one time over 100% of their GDP, or if they were like damn close, like 90%. So basically for like every dollar they brought in, 90 cents of it went out. And then for mandatory stuff, and the rest of it, everybody was fighting for this 10% that was left over. So in 2020, we were using 31% of our GDP. And in 2021, we were using 30% of our GDP. And in 2022, we were using 25% of our GDP. Now, to put that in context, remember that in 2020, we had COVID hit. Okay. So again, I don't care what political side of the party you're on. I mean, if you heard those numbers and you're like, yeah, see, in 2020, it was 31% GDP. Well, we also had COVID. So the numbers you have to keep the numbers in context and relative. You can still like or not like whoever you want to. I'm just saying, if you're going to use numbers, use them the right way. That's all I'm saying. So this takes us back to the debt ceiling, and where do we really cut money from? Because none of the politicians, first of all, most of them are boomers. Okay. And they are not going to be, and the biggest voting base is still boomers. And the boomers generation is the largest wave that is hitting currently Social Security. And I did a whole show on Social Security, and I'll probably revise that so that you guys can understand exactly how Social Security works. But if your biggest line items are entitlement programs, then where do you actually make the cut from? Because of course, Democrats do not want to have the more of the social programs cut, and then Republicans and Democrats both, neither one of them want to cut Social Security, which is a ginormous line item. And as people are living longer, then what's happening is that we're seeing that they're taxing the system more. And so the Social Security system was built originally that the younger generations would pay into a system to help make sure that the people at the top, the older generation, had enough money to live off of till they died. But the reason why Medicare doesn't start until 65 is because for the longest time at 65, that would be the age that people would die. So the thing is that Medicare started at that age for a reason, because they were hoping that they wouldn't really have to cover too many people. Obviously, that's not the case now. People are living into their 70s and their 80s. And with that, they're having more chronic illnesses that are coming through, which weighs on the Medicare system. And of course, they have to buy supplements and pay that out of pocket and et cetera, et cetera. But what we have is we have more and more boomers retiring. Now, we're at the very tail end of the boomers. So the boomers that are pulling from Social Security are mid-level boomers who are aging out of the system. And then we have the very youngest wave of the boomers that are either in or getting ready right now to go into the Social Security system. And then, of course, the next wave is the Xers. And we're going to have the oldest Xers come through, and then they're going to start hitting Social Security. So as a population declines, look over at Japan, what starts happening is that there's certain breakdowns of the social system that's happening, and population is declining. That's a whole nother show. So if you guys do me a favor, and please drop in the comments. I see there's a lot of shit going on, and I'm going to catch up to it. Give me feedback on my show, because I feel like what I'm talking to you guys about is very important. But maybe I'm delusional, and maybe it's not as interesting. And I would really sincerely and genuinely like your feedback. And also, I really want to move Finances, the other F word, to AMP. And we did a test run a couple Sundays ago. It did not go well at all. We had nobody come on. But I want to start doing Finances, the other F word, but I want to do it on AMP. But I need feedback from people to see if that would even be of interest to them. It's like this show, but with a co-host and a lot deeper dive into stuff. And I really need feedback. So please, everybody give me feedback. And I'm going to play a quick song so I can catch up on chat. And then everybody jump over to Rare Todd Show. And let me see. I want something that's really... I don't have anything that's really short. So I'm going to play an Aerosmith song real quick, and then I'll come back and wrap up, and then I'll see you guys on a Todd Show. But for real... please give me feedback in the comment section, because I really want to bring Finances, the other F word, over to AMP. Like, I really want to do this. It was supposed to be a radio show at the beginning, but we just didn't have licenses. Looks like on Friday morning, I'm going to go long. I will see maybe if I can get Stanley on for that Friday, but I think he's going to be too jet lagged to do it. But I will reach out to him and I will see, because that would be the perfect time. If not, it's going to have to be next Wednesday, and we'll just move everything around. So next Friday, or not fucking 2 days from now, I will go longer, and hopefully I'll be able to do a deep dive. Maybe I'll do the Social Security episode on that day so that you guys can really understand how Social Security works, because we've already talked about how it's a very big line item in the United States budget. So everybody, yes, they will, Todd. So with everybody, thank you for jumping on, and I appreciate it. My show is Wednesdays and Friday mornings from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Pacific time. Everybody jump over to Todd's show, and I will see you there eventually as I break everything down. And then it looks like I will be going long on Friday once the stars align. If you guys have any topics you want me to cover, you can always email me at Mel, M-E-L, at Finances, finances.theotherfword.com. So finances is plural. Mel at finances.theotherfword.com. Let me know what you want to cover. I really appreciate you guys so much. You guys are awesome. Have a great hump day. Hopefully you get some. And I'll see you at Todd's show. And with that, Amp, as always, I am out this bitch.
Thanks for listening. If you like us, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.